and welcome to Live, Laugh, Lore. I'm Caroline.
And I'm Emily. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
And welcome back to you, Caroline, to the United States.
Oh, yeah. I know. Literally fresh off the boat.
Yes. How was
I don't know why I said that. Fresh off the plane.
So how was
What
Australia?
was I
Where'd you go?
It
What'd you
was
do?
great. I went to the Daintree Rainforest, which I don't know if it's the oldest rainforest in the world. I want to say that, but I could be wrong. But it is a very cool rainforest.
Wow.
I took a train up there, the Coranda train, and then I took a cable car down. So it was like you were just flying through the forest. It was really, really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, saw a lot of Aborigine stuff, like Aborigine art. I met people who were Aboriginal, heard a lot of stories about like the indigenous culture there. It was really, really cool. Beautiful. I mean, like the countryside there. So I was in Queensland, which is North Australia, and it was lots of mountains
Oh.
and by the water. So yeah, it was like beautiful driving through and everything. One of their top crops is sugarcane, and there was sugarcane everywhere.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of Australia, which Australia is a massive place,
Mhm.
but I assumed it all just looked like they call it the bush, right? Like the flatland.
Yeah, the outback. Yeah, that's kind of, I guess, what I was expecting. I don't really know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that when I went.
Yeah.
It looked like Florida. When I first got there, I was like, did I just
Ah,
fly across the world to go to Florida? But no, I did not. And even my coworker was like, it just kind of looks like Florida. I was like, it did, because it's tropical.
right. Like
Um,
Everglades kind of vibe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, kind of like that, I guess. And lots of palm trees, lots of just very tropical plants. But it was really cool. The rainforest was honestly like probably one of my favorite things. It was just really interesting to learn about. We took a tour like deep into the rainforest, and
Oh.
we got to a point in there where they were like, yeah, we can't get out of the bus because it's really dangerous. And I was like, why is it so
Why?
dangerous? And she said that the plants, first of all, there's like venomous snakes and spiders that
Right.
can kill you because they have the most venomous and poisonous animals in the world. But she said that there are trees that have like barbs that will hook onto your skin. And then there's trees that will shoot cyanide at you, which is really crazy. I was like,
That's
I want to see a
insane.
cyanide tree.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we went on a river cruise in the Daintree River, saw two
Mhm.
crocodiles. And one of it's like the first one was a female, it was smaller, and then the male was like huge. And we only saw its head, but for those of you listening, I'm just outstretching my arms. But this is how big the head was. It was like literally probably that big, just the head of the crocodile.
Jeez.
I was
Oh my God.
actually terrified of the crocodiles. I thought I was going to get eaten, but I did not.
Good. I'm glad.
Went snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef.
Very cool.
Very cool. Saw shark. Saw
Did you
some
see
jellies.
what was the shark you wanted to see? The black tip?
The reef shark. I actually did see a reef shark. The white tip reef
Mhm.
shark. Yep, that's what I
White
saw.
tip.
It was only about 2 feet, probably,
Oh.
but it was very cute. It was like right before we were
Yeah.
done. Anna found an area that had really good coral, lots of fish and everything. It was kind of farther out. And she
Mhm.
was like, come here, come here, come here. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, shark.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
saw a big ass grouper, and it scared me really bad. I didn't know
Yeah,
what it
those are
was.
actually pretty scary looking. What I've
Massive,
seen online. Yeah, I
massive
don't.
fish.
That's like
I didn't know what it was.
have you ever seen a sunfish online?
Yeah, those are
Massive?
it wasn't it wasn't quite that big, but
Yeah.
it was a large grouper.
That would scare me.
Yeah.
Also, you probably made that
Yeah,
shark's day. Like, oh my gosh.
probably. I wanted to see a shark so bad, so I was really
Yeah.
excited. And
Did you
then I went to the Australia Zoo and I saw the Irwin family.
Oh my God. I saw that on your Instagram and I was so jealous of
Which,
you.
like, you could tell I'm, like, so excited about that, but
That's
I love
amazing.
Steve Irwin, as most people do,
Yes.
and I follow Robert and Bindi on Instagram and watch them all the time. I think they're so interesting,
Mhm.
and we were sitting for the Croc show, and I was asking everyone around me, I was like, "How often do they come here to do it? Do you think we're gonna see them?" And they're like, "I don't know, they don't come that often." And then they walked
Oh.
out, and I was like, "Is that Robert?" And then someone was like, "It's the whole family," and I cried.
Oh my goodness. So I forget what her name is, which I am very ashamed of.
Terry?
Their mom,
Yeah, Terry.
Terry. Yeah, so she was there
Mhm.
too?
She was there too.
Oh, that's
And
so
then
sweet.
Chandler, who is Bindi's husband, was there.
Oh, wow.
Um, and watching Robert do the show was just so crazy because it was like
Gosh,
just watching Steve Irwin do it, like
that
he
makes me
like
wanna
gives
cry.
it all of his energy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really special. And Robert Irwin said hello to me and my sister. We were walking by after they were done with the second show. And we were like, just be casual, just be casual.
Just be cool.
And he saw us and he goes, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was like, "Good." And my sister just goes, "Hey." And then they drove by in their car like right after because they were leaving. And
Oh,
they had their windows rolled on. And Bindi was like, "Nice to meet you." I was
stop.
like, this is the
No.
coolest day of my actual life. So, of course, I went to the gift shop and bought like all the Steve
Of
Irwin
course.
merch.
Yeah, of course.
Oh.
What's crazy too is like a day or two before I saw that you had done that,
Mhm.
there was an edit on TikTok that I was watching, and it was like an interview with Steve Irwin, and he was talking about his kids and how his like main goal in life is that he
Yeah.
passes his passion down to
Oh
them,
my
and then it
gosh.
like flips to clips of Robert Bindi doing shows and just doing their preservation
Yeah.
stuff, and of course I'm crying, watching this.
I mean,
Oh my god.
it's also probably difficult because they live there at the zoo. And
Oh,
I mean, the zoo is like a shrine to Steve Irwin.
oh
He's
yeah, that would be tough.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I
yeah.
mean, I actually got Discovery Plus last night and started watching episodes of The Crocodile Hunter. He was just like a wild man. He
Hmm.
was just like, there was a video of him scuba diving and he's just wearing his uniform. Like, he's not even in a scuba suit. I'm like, this
Yeah,
man is just actually,
that does not
but
surprise me at all.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
really, really cool. The
that's
funniest part of
amazing.
the whole trip was that people can't understand. First of all, Americans are loud.
Yes, literally
Like,
everywhere.
when you go to a different country, you
You
realize how loud we are, and
Mhm.
it is like a different level. I'd never realized it before, but you would hear a group of Americans and you're like, "Oh my gosh."
Yep, there
And
they are.
even me, people would turn around and look at me and be like, "Oh, she's loud." I'm like, "I know."
Yeah, same.
And like our accents are so intense. And I didn't realize
Compared to
before.
Australian accents?
Yeah, because they don't talk as loud. Like, we were walking and we heard a guy go, "I'll give you $10 right now if you give me a hit of that jewel."
You know what?
Like, the intense bro accent, it's jarring when you hear
That's
it.
such a great point. Because when I was in Croatia, I was walking
Mhm.
around the town like by myself, and
Yeah.
you get so used to hearing the noises and
Yeah.
sounds and voices around you. And I remember there was a group of college age boys that were like
Mhm.
across the street from me, and they were so
They're so
loud.
loud.
And I remember being disgusted. Like I'm walking with the
Yeah.
rest of
It's
like
embarrassing,
like the locals, and I'm like, I'm not with them. I'm not with
But it's like the bro, it's like what you would describe as a typical American accent. Like,
them.
"Oh my god, dude." It's just you hear it and it is
Yeah.
different, but
Yeah. Did you see any monkeys?
no, I did
Oh.
not. I don't think I saw lots of koalas and I saw wild kangaroo, which was really cool. I pet a kangaroo,
Oh.
multiple kangaroos,
Oh.
and no, I did not see any monkeys. I
Oh.
don't know that they had any.
It's a monkey
Yeah,
free
I don't
zone.
know.
That's good to know.
Maybe. Maybe. There's monkeys in South Carolina that are loose.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
As far as I know, there's no loose monkeys in Arizona. So, and if there are, I don't
Oh,
want to. I don't want to find out about them.
yeah.
I'm good not knowing that.
But that was
That's
Australia,
fun.
and now I'm back.
That's awesome.
Went all the way across the world for a week, which seems like just crazy, but
Yeah, that's a short period of time. And how long is
it
the
is.
plane flight?
16 hours there, 14 hours back because you're on the jet stream on the way back. But it
Yikes.
feels like it's so weird because it doesn't feel like 16 hours.
No.
Like you have no concept of where you are or like what's going on really. So, because I mean, time is a concept, right? So, like when you don't understand what's going on,
Let's get into that.
like animals don't know, like it could be 2 minutes or 2 hours. They don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it feels. You're just like,
Yeah.
hello?
Yeah. Yeah. Time is not real. Life is not real.
No.
Nothing is real. Imagine having COVID and not knowing it, but being on a plane.
Although that would be so horrible, honestly.
That was the worst.
I
And I
could not
feel
imagine.
horrible. I was doing my best to like cover myself because I knew I was sick. I didn't know I had COVID. And it literally hit me the night before my flight. And I thought, I'm going to tough it out.
And that was the bad variant, right? That was the flirt
It was
variant.
real bad. I died for like a week after.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got home from my trip and got a message from my friend who I was traveling with. And she was like, well, I have COVID. You might want to go get yourself tested. So I did. And it literally, I've taken lots of COVID tests and I've never seen it light up so fast.
Yeah.
Like
that was how it was when I was sick.
Yeah.
I thought when I got COVID the last time, I thought I had meningitis. Like I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital because I've never progressively gotten sick that fast. And I was like,
fast.
oh, something's wrong.
Yes. I thought I was dying. Like the body aches were bad.
Oh God.
Really bad.
Couldn't lift my head. And literally was just sitting there like, this is.
Yes. And I felt like I had to force myself to not like stay awake. I hardly slept. I couldn't sleep. But it was more so I felt like I was drifting in and out of like
consciousness.
being alert, it was so aware. Weird. Yeah. It wasn't real. Yeah. But the trip was worth it. I would do it again.
So. Yeah, I probably would go to Australia again. Not soon because it is incredibly expensive to get over there. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to pay off that credit card bill. I looked at it and I was like, oh, we went over budget.
That's for future Caroline to figure out.
But now I'm already planning my trip to Japan next year, so.
You're going to Japan?
You want to go with me?
I would, yes. I'm not even joking. I've always wanted to go.
Yeah. We should do it. I really want to go.
Yes, I do too. There's an island of cats. Did you know that?
Oh, well, we got to go to that.
Yes. Yes, we must.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, that was Australia.
That's so cool. Well, I'm glad that you're back. It was weird not hearing from you consistently for a week.
Literally, like, was just not a part of society.
How could you be? You were like a whole day ahead.
It was so nice, though, to be able to just disconnect all day.
What else is new with you?
Well, I was going to share this because I just found this out. I just saw this. It is not that exciting, but my peace lily bloomed for the first time in over a year.
What does that mean?
And I just walked by before this. Well, the last time it bloomed, it was kind of like a pivotal moment for me in my life. So,
okay.
So, I don't know. It has 2 blooms. I haven't been able to get it to bloom for so long. Oh. And it has 2 flowers coming out right now.
I feel like that means something.
It might.
I don't know anything about plants. I don't even know what a peace lily looks like, but I feel like that means something.
I think that it does. I feel like it meant something the last time. So, anyways. So today. Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for, Caroline?
I'm thankful for you, Emily.
I'm thankful for you. Oh my goodness.
I'm also thankful for my parents because they have helped me out with so much this year. So I know my mom listens to this, so it'll be a nice surprise for her to hear that.
That is nice.
And they have helped me out tremendously this year. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah.
Also thankful for that. And my cats.
Honestly, same. Both parents and cats. Same.
Yes.
I would ditto all of that. Yes. Yeah. It's been a rough year in the Benjamin household. So yeah.
It has, yeah.
Yeah. Family has become much more important than ever
Yeah.
before. So yeah, very thankful for that.
And
Yeah. Also very thankful to be closer to my siblings, who are much younger than me. So they're still little babies in my eyes, even though two of them are technically adults now. But I
they
changed their
are.
diapers. So,
Oh, that's so crazy.
they will forever be babies. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is crazy. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh my
The
gosh.
world just keeps on turning. And I don't know. Well, do you
Well,
want to introduce what we're talking about today?
I would like to. I feel like
Do you want me
you
to
would be
introduce
better
it?
at. Yes, please.
Okay.
Because I actually struggled with this one a little bit. So
Okay. Well, so speaking of TikTok, I don't know how I got into this trend of historical figures and it's like short little videos.
yeah.
They do like sometimes AI voiceovers that are kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching a lot of those that have been very interesting, and I've noticed a trend that most of them are about really, really pissed off women through history. And the underlying tone is generally that of revenge. And for many reasons, I just thought I would love to learn more about stories that probably, at least I did not know. They're not in history books. Women generally usually are not
Yeah.
in history books very often.
There's like two.
Exactly. And women are badass. We've shown that
Oh, yeah.
time and time again. So I wanted to share two that I thought were really cool stories that I heard a little bit about on TikTok and then did some more research on. So generally speaking, we're going to share 4 stories, 2 stories each, but the underlying theme will be about really, really pissed off women
Yeah.
in history.
Yeah. Not our usual, spooky stuff, but still dark. Dark history. Dark lore. Love it.
Yes.
All right. My first one is about Boudicca. So she was a queen of the ancient British, and she was known as one of Rome's most vicious opponents. She was part of the Celtic Iceni tribe. The territory stretched across much of what is now East Anglia, Britain. The Iceni tribe was a fierce warrior tribe from Britannia.
What time frame was this?
This was AD 60,
Oh,
AD
God.
like 50. It was super, long ago.
Okay.
So her husband, Prasutagus, ruled as an independent ally of Rome. He was one of the 11 kings who surrendered to the Emperor Claudius following the Roman conquest in AD 43. Prasutagus died sometime before AD 60, and he left his kingdom to his 2 daughters and the Emperor Nero of the Roman Empire. He did not leave it to Boudicca. Boudicca was already pretty hostile towards the Roman Empire, and after she didn't receive this kingdom in the will, she grew even more angry. Prasutagus left her out of the will in hopes that his daughters would continue his policy of cooperation with the Roman Empire because he knew Boudicca would not. Prior to his death, there was a lot of discontent growing in the Roman Empire, and this was due to heavy taxation, debts imposed by the Roman authorities, land seizures, cultural suppression, forced Romanization, and loss of tribal independence. So just a lot of really messed up things.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, after his death, all that hope that the Iceni tribe and the Roman Empire could coexist peacefully, that hope was gone. The Iceni tribe was annexed by Roman officials. They confiscated property, enslaved nobles, and subjected them to very brutal treatment. Boudicca was flogged, and her daughters were raped. Thus, her rebellion.
Really quick, flogged is where they would like hit you with the planks.
So flogged is a flogger is a like something you hold, which kind of shaped like a mallet, but then the thing on the end has a bunch of cloths on it, so it's kind of like a pom pom with cloth.
Like
And
a
so
whip,
when
kind of. but
like a whip, yes, a
yeah.
whip with a bunch of pieces on it. So when
Yikes.
it hits you, it strikes you in multiple places. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they would put spikes on the end
Ugh.
so that it would grip your skin. Yeah.
Ugh.
The
Okay.
best example I can give is like in Outlander, they flog him like 100 times or something. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's very violent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't see a lot of flogging anymore.
That's probably for the best.
So Boudicca, obviously incredibly angry about all of this, she rallied the Iceni and formed a large coalition of anti-Roman forces. This coalition was estimated to be around 70,000 to 100,000 warriors.
Wow.
Yeah, massive army. She got them all together.
Do you know if that was men and
Sorry.
women in the?
It was. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Cool.
So in Roman culture, it was not accepted for a woman to be a leader, but it was in Celtic. So it was really kind of an important thing for her to do that
Yeah,
and lead an army to fight for her tribe and fight for her people.
definitely.
Especially since she didn't even get, left in the will.
That's so insane.
I know. So the first attack was on Camulodunum, which is now known as Gloucester in England. Can't even say that one, but it's great. It's like Glaucish. I can't say that one either. Gloucestershire.
Gloucester.
Help.
I think it's
Yes.
Gloucester. I don't know. I could be
Golly.
wrong.
Golly.
Golly.
So this was a Roman settlement for retired Roman soldiers, and it was a symbol of oppression. The Temple of Claudius was a focal point for Roman authority, and it was completely destroyed. The Roman forces in the city were completely overwhelmed. Survivors fled and were also massacred. So that was her first take. She took over the city. She won. There was a second attack on Londinium, which is London. So this was completely torn apart as well. And the Roman general Suetonius heard about the devastation at Camulodunum. He gathered his warriors to fight back, but then he learned that Boudicca's forces far outnumbered his own. So he left the city to its fate and he just advised everyone to leave. But obviously, they didn't all leave in time. The city was burned to the ground. Thousands were slaughtered. Bodies of the captured noble and distinguished women were mutilated and impaled on stakes as part of the victory celebration. So, not great. Then there was Verulamium. The Trinovants were another tribe that had been seized. They joined forces with Boudicca's army. This was another major Roman town, and they completely destroyed it. Extensive destruction took place, and they had heavy civilian casualties. In total, from these three attacks, there's estimated to be about 70,000 people that were killed.
Wow.
All for her revenge. Now, this was revenge for her treatment. She was flogged. Her daughters were raped, but also there was a lot of oppression in her tribe, and she stood for that.
Yeah.
So the Roman general Suetonius, who previously fled, he grouped his troops together and strategized. They eventually had a battle that took place at Watling Street in the West Midlands, and the Romans inflicted massive casualties. They killed tens of thousands of Britons, and unfortunately, Boudicca's forces were defeated. They said it's likely that she died from either taking poison to kill herself or she just died from illness. They're not really sure. But after that, settlements in Britain were rebuilt under Roman rule. And as we know, the Roman Empire was massive at that time. So they succeeded. Although she was ultimately defeated, Boudicca became a symbol of resistance against oppression and tyranny. She defied Roman norms by being a woman who led an army into battle. She showed the prominent role that women have in Celtic societies. Her legacy lives on today and is celebrated in British history and is commemorated by many statues, like the one near Westminster Bridge in London.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the story
Love
of
that.
Boudicca. Yeah.
Yeah, I also love the thought of of her just making these Roman men shiver in their skirts, you know?
Oh, love that. In their skirts. Yeah.
She must have scared them. Really spooked them.
Yep.
That alone is a victory, I think, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, she was pretty successful.
Yeah.
You know? Just the
Yeah.
Roman Empire was quite a force. It took up all of Europe, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was huge.
It's insane. Which is wild, knowing what it was like when it fell, like how big it was.
Right.
And yeah, just crazy. We don't learn from history, though. Why would we?
Mm-mm.
So, anyways, that's an entirely different subject. Well,
Yeah.
great story. Love
Thank
that.
you.
I'm going to start my first story with a kind of similar kind of theme, I guess. Mine is about Jeanne de Clisson, the Lioness of Brittany.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, Jeanne de Clisson is a woman whose name also struck fear into the hearts of her enemies. She was known as the Lioness of Brittany, and her tale is one of political intrigue and also revenge. Lots of revenge. Which we love. Jeanne was born in Belleville, Survey, France. Doing my best. And
You did
I'm
your
doing
best.
my Belleville.
Belleville is probably
Belleville.
like Uvi or something.
Probably, yeah. Probably don't
Because the
pronounce
L
any of
is
the
like,
L's. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
If
probably
anyone,
also pronouncing that wrong. So,
yeah. If I was a better podcaster, I would do a better job of looking at pronunciations beforehand, but I never do.
the thing is, I do, but I can't talk right or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We are American.
There's not enough room in my mouth. I don't know.
That's the problem. Yes.
I really think it is. I think my tongue and my cheeks are too big and my mouth is small.
Maybe.
I really do think so. I think it can't keep up also. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, anyways, in Belleville, Survey, France. She was born in 1300 into a noble family. She is also known as Jeanne de Belleville.
De Belleville.
De Belleville. But it's her later title, the Lioness of Brittany, that has earned her a place in history. So she wasn't just a noblewoman. She was very politically active, and she actually took legal action to protect her rights, even against her own husband. So her first marriage was less than ideal. She married at the age of 12, which even back then was young for that time. That marriage ended when her husband died in 1326. So she was 26 years old. And soon after, she remarried. Her second marriage was annulled ultimately. And then in 1330, she ended up marrying the love of her life, Olivier de Clisson. So although Jeanne and Olivier were deeply in love, she was not a passive person. Definitely was not a passive wife. She was very determined to safeguard her own interests and ensure the well-being of her children as well as herself. She even took her own husband to court over an issue regarding earnings from Olivier's estates. Wanted to make sure that she was going to get her money at the end of the day. The marriage contract had promised her a portion of these earnings, and she was very much not afraid to hold her husband accountable for that. So the case was heard by none other than King Philip VI, and to Jeanne's favor, the court ruled in her favor. What I thought was interesting in the sources I saw about this, there was no surprise, generally speaking, that a noble woman would take this course of action. And there was no attempt to brush it aside or tell her she was overreacting in any way.
Interesting.
medieval noblewomen in France had equal rights to the noblemen, and they had a lot of confidence behind them to enforce those rights, which I thought was great. Yes, good for them. But unfortunately, her world would soon be shattered by politics and betrayal. Brittany was a self-governing region in what is now Western France. It was a land caught in the crossfire of the ongoing 100 Years' War, which I vaguely remember learning about. Don't remember any details about it, but...
Was it really 100 years?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
Sounds like it.
But it was a brutal conflict between England and France. When the Duke of Brittany died without an heir, both France and England backed opposing sides in the succession war. So they both were fighting over Brittany, essentially. Jeanne's husband, Olivier, sided with France, but his loyalty would later be called into question by the French crown. They came to believe that he had betrayed France, which, according to Jeanne, was false. But unaware of the crown's suspicion of him, Clisson accepted an invitation in 1343, along with 14 other minor lords, for a tournament in Paris to celebrate the current truce between England and France. What Olivier didn't know was that the truce was a ruse, or the tournament was a ruse, rather. Once he arrived in Paris, he was arrested, tried without evidence, and coerced into confessing to treason. Essentially, they tortured him into confessing. His punishment was swift and brutal. Olivier de Clisson was publicly executed, his head placed on a pike for all to see, and his body was hung from a wall for everyone to see.
No wonder they got the Black Plague. They just had bodies hanging around.
Away. This is a human body. Bury
Could you imagine the stench?
No. I mean,
of these cities.
It wasn't just dead bodies. They were like throwing shit out the window, right?
Do you know? That's what I'm saying. Like they didn't have plumbing. Yeah. But when the English came to America, they wrote that like they thought that the Native Americans thought that they were gods because they kept burning all of their sage. But apparently it was because they smelled so bad. And they were like they spoke that they were trying to mask the stench of these white men because we didn't like, you have to, I mean, we hung people on walls.
Yeah.
We couldn't have, we obviously didn't know anything about hygiene.
No.
We were the big like petticoats and the guys wore like bloomers. The swamp ass, baby.
Oof. Can't even imagine.
Oof. So, yeah.
Stanky. Yeah, that does not surprise me.
Anyway, I thought that was a fun fact.
That is a fun fact. Very fun. So, after this, legend has it that Jeanne took her children to see their father's dismembered remains, and it is said that she made them swear to avenge his murder. But what is certain is that Jeanne's grief soon transformed into a burning desire for revenge. She went right into anger, which, so with the estates of herself and her late husband seized by the French crown, she really had nothing left to her name anymore. So she sold her own personal wealth, which really was like jewels and possessions, her savings account, She used all of that money to raise an army, just like Boudicca. It's very interesting. She rallied a band of 400 men and set out on a campaign of brutal revenge. She attacked and captured several castles, and she made sure to leave the bloodiest trail in her wake. In each castle, Jeanne and her raiders would make a point to slaughter nearly everyone, but they would leave only a few survivors with very clear instructions to go and carry the story of what happened that day. Soon, the French soldiers were terrified of her raiding parties. They began rallying their own forces just to track her down, but she was always one step ahead. Eventually, Jeanne sailed to England with her children and her supporters, and when she was there, she met with John of Montfort and King Edward III, and she used her funds that she had, and she combined that with her financial support from the English crown to purchase and outfit 3 warships, which is very cool. But also, she decided to do some decorating, and she painted them all black and put red sails on all of them.
Cool. So
Very
cool.
So cool. And upon, getting this fleet of ships, from there, she became a pirate, what we would traditionally call a pirate. She was a maritime warrior, and she was just striking down the French Navy one by one. Soon, her fleet became known as the Black Fleet. And it was known for its ability to slip in and out of estuaries, launching surprise attacks on French merchant ships in the Bay of Biscay. The French were no match for Jeanne's agile and deadly ships. The pirate crew captured vessels, killed all but one of the crew again, and took any valuable cargo on their way out. The surviving crew members spread stories of the merciless Lioness of Brittany, and her legend only grew. Jeanne was feared, and her name was whispered in terror across the seas. So after about 13 years, coincidentally, 1 year for each year of her marriage to Olivier, Jeanne's campaign of vengeance began to wind down. She decided to return to a more conventional life and even remarried in 1356. So she's an old woman in her 50s at this point. And unlike most of her pirate counterparts, she died very peacefully, or so the stories go. Some do say, though, that she still haunts Clisson Castle to this day. So essentially, after her reign of terror, she decided, I'm ready to retire. And she just kind of went off into the countryside with her new mans and lived out the rest of her days. Good for her. Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, the French really never got the one up on her, which...
No, they didn't.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Happy ending.
Happy ending. Yes, supposedly. I would like to go to that castle now that I have learned about her.
Oh, yeah. That's super
very cool. Yes.
Yeah.
See if I can, see her ghost or something. I don't know if I'd want to, though. She sounds scary.
She just sounded a little scary, but, we didn't do anything wrong.
You're right. You're right. I'm not French. I'll be the loudest American in the castle.
Exactly.
Yes.
That might annoy her.
That actually, yeah, that would be bad. I won't do that.
Well, that was a great story.
Thank you.
I will move on to my next story.
Yes.
Which is about Queen Arawilo. I actually really, really liked this story. I just think this is my favorite. Out of the 2 that I picked. This is my favorite.
I saved my favorite for last as well.
Love that. So this is the story of Queen Arawilo. It's one that's not told very often in Western society or in the British education system. It's a story that has been passed down by word, and some do say it's a myth because it is an oral story. But the origins come from Somali, who up until 1970 had an oral population with no written script in Somali language. So everything was passed down orally. It wasn't passed down by any sort of script or writing or text. So I don't say it's a myth. I say it's real. So Arawilo is believed to have ruled what is now Somalia during a period of turmoil in 15 AD. She is seen as a hero by women and a monster by men. She lived in a patriarchal society where women were viewed as possessions. They had really no place. They were just seen as, something to reproduce. She was married by 16, and her husband, unfortunately, was killed amidst clan conflicts. Now, the clan conflicts in the story are very important because it seemed during that time there was a lot of different clans. and they were constantly fighting. So it was just creating a lot of turmoil, a lot of big egos, it sounds like, a lot of men being like, no, mine's bigger. You know.
Thank God that doesn't happen anymore.
I know, right? Thank God we don't even talk about it in, debates or anything, right?
Thank God we've evolved past that.
Yeah. She faced rejection from both her in-laws and her birth parents and family due to her childlessness and lack of dowry. This kind of emphasized the limited value that attributed to women in Somali who didn't have familial ties or wealth or children, again, because they were just kind of seen as like something to reproduce. Arawilo fled to the jungle. She gathered women who were also marginalized in this way. So just a bunch of outcasts. These women formed a self-sufficient community where they hunted and protected one another from bandits. Her bravery earned her the respect and the trust of the women, and they eventually made her their leader. Her reputation grew and attracted more minority clans and other marginalized individuals, and eventually she was able to build up a strong army. She declared herself queen after unifying her followers, and she vowed to end the destructive clan wars that plagued Somali. She used peace as a strategy initially. She wanted to use meditation. She kind of issued warnings like, if this doesn't stop, we will go, we will attack. She used fear strategically and leveraged myths about her treatment of male captives to dissuade rebellion in her clan. So under Arawilo, women were empowered to take on tasks like hunting and leadership roles. These were roles that were traditionally reserved for men. So peace efforts through negotiations unfortunately failed, as expected, and she led her clan to declare war on the resistant clan leaders. Arawilo's military campaign subdued the violent clans, and she imprisoned their leaders in a secure prison. Rumors of castration for rapists spread, and they served as psychological welfare to deter any sort of rebellion. Her stories were usually pretty exaggerated, but it highlighted her commitment to justice and equality, and it scared the living daylights out of men. So pretty effective, if you ask me. Her reign brought stability and saved thousands from the cycles of war and poverty. Arawilo emphasized equality and protection for all, creating a society where women held leadership roles and were valued. She was killed around her 40th birthday, possibly by a male relative or rival. There's no certainty around this or anything. She's still seen as a hero in Somali, mainly by women, and her story survives as a symbol of empowerment and resilience. Women honor her as a beacon of strength and leadership, and her name is sometimes used to describe women who challenge patriarchal norms. And her legacy is shared as a tale of courage and leadership, urging women to embrace their inner resilience and challenge societal barriers. I really like that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. You know what I find very interesting about that is you mentioned it towards the end there of like she created society based on equality and like empowerment for all. And I guarantee you if a man listens to that story, they're going to think to themselves, oh, well, they just, they were against men.
The women were,
That's not at all what was happening.
No.
Like,
no. That wouldn't be
a
matriarchal society at all. Women wouldn't be like over men. I think that's what people think. Because in patriarchal, men are over women, but in matriarchal, I think our empathy is so high. I just don't see that ever happening. That's not in my mind how I see the world. I don't see like women above men or,
No. Like in a matriarchal society, what's kind of interesting, at least in like matriarchal societies that I've heard of, it's not all women hold all leadership roles. It's just women hold leadership roles. So do men. But also so do women.
Yeah.
And that's maybe not necessarily a correct description of a like true matriarchal society. But what I think of, and this might be a stupid comparison, but the Barbie movie. You remember the
Yes.
Barbie movie. It starts out with a matriarchal society. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the women, the Barbies, are the ones that hold positions of power. They're president, they're
Right.
doctors, they're lawyers, they're, you know, all of that. And it's obviously, you know, dramatized for comedic effect. But in the Barbie world, no one is
Mm-hmm.
harmed. Everyone is ensured
Yeah.
happiness and opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until the end of the movie where they flipped that to a
Yeah.
patriarchal society where now
Mm-hmm.
violence was introduced and people
You're
were
right.
put down and there was oppression and there was, you know, all
Mm-hmm.
of that horrible shit that comes with patriarchal
Yeah.
societies.
Yeah.
The men that get angry at the Barbie movie are not watching the Barbie movie.
No, it's like a
Like
litmus test. If you
it
like the
really
Barbie
is.
movie, I mean, if you
Yeah.
like
If you
understood the
understand the
Barbie
Barbie
movie.
movie. Yeah, you don't have to like it, but like if you understand
Also,
the
the
meaning
Barbie
behind
movie is so good.
I
Oh
loved
my
it. It made
god,
me
I saw
cry.
it in theaters 3 times, and
Oh,
every time I
Lord.
cried, and
Mhm.
that the last clip of just, like, sisterhood, girlhood, I'm like, "That is so
Yeah.
perfect," like, that really does
Not a
describe.
dry eye in sight. Yeah.
No.
And America Ferrera's speech, I hear it every time I cry.
Oh,
Doesn't matter how many times I hear it.
yes.
I'm like, yep.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
spot on. It's a
But
great
it is a
movie.
litmus test. And I think these types of stories are very similar. Obviously, Barbie and this
Mhm.
queen are not the same person by any means.
Totally, yeah.
Very different in a lot of ways. But,
Mhm.
you know, she wasn't trying to create a society to put down men.
Yeah,
It was men that
exactly.
stood in her way to create equality and
Yeah.
remove
And she
oppression.
only
So yes,
punished
that's
the ones, who committed rape,
right. Right.
'cause
Yeah.
that's
Who committed
wrong.
acts of violence?
Yeah. Violence, yes.
Exactly. Ugh. Anyways, I'll get off
Um,
my soapbox.
it also made me, like, think about I read this article recently that they discovered that during, like, cavemen or, like, nomad days where we
Mhm.
think, like, women were gatherers, men were hunters, they actually found that women hunted just as much as men and
Yeah.
men gathered just as much as women. I think we separated these things because we thought that those roles fit in with those
Mhm.
genders, but it actually was found that there were really no real gender roles at the time, and they shared the responsibilities equally.
I
So,
mean, that makes sense. Yeah. They
yeah.
didn't know
I mean,
about
because why
gender
not?
roles. Yeah. They had
Yeah.
no idea. They didn't know what male versus
Yeah.
female was. And they knew that there were, I'm sure they knew there were
Mhm.
differences, but yeah, I would
Yeah.
imagine it was more based on, okay, what are you good at?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
personality based and skill based, not gender
Right.
based. But
And women make great leaders. There's this doctor, Dr. Men, he studies brains. He'll take brain scans and he studies brains. And he says that women make great leaders because our frontal lobe has so much going on, more so than
interesting.
men. Like our brains are literally wired differently.
Mhm.
And women have the ability to multitask, see things from the total perspective rather than just
Mhm.
small points. Women have an ability to lead in a way that men don't. Not saying that men don't make
Yeah.
great leaders,
Oh no, yeah,
because
they
there
arc
have
you
been
as
great
well.
men leaders,
Yeah.
but women also, they have that ability. They have more
Yes,
going on in
definitely.
the frontal cortex.
Yeah.
Decision-making
Well, I mean,
skills are better. Yeah.
look at all of our stories. The ability to rally that many people, men and women,
Yeah. Mhm.
together, that's leadership
Our frontal
skills.
cortex is not smooth. It is wavy.
It is very wavy. I work in construction. I'm a project
Mhm.
manager in construction, and I've heard many times they believe that the women in the construction industry do make better managers
Yeah.
specifically. Again, that is not to say that I haven't had great male
Yeah.
managers.
Oh,
They
yeah.
I've had both. But for
Equal.
the reason that you mentioned earlier, we have empathy, more empathy. And I think maybe that's because we're trained a little bit to have more
Yeah, I
empathy.
think it is like a
Um,
trained thing.
I think so. And like you also said, the ability to see the bigger picture and see multiple viewpoints, see multiple sides to come to a conclusion.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's not saying that men can't do that. It's just, I think, more prevalent in how women are raised.
Yeah.
To be
It
able to
just
see
like
that.
depends. Yeah. Like I have male coworkers who are like very strong in their roles and like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just
almost like it
different,
doesn't
but
matter.
it's in both. It's almost like it doesn't matter.
It's
It's almost
almost
like we've made these things up based on
Ugh.
biases.
Oh my Lord. Anyways, we didn't have an agenda with this topic. I might have had
Not
one
at
a little bit.
all.
No. Okay. So my last story is one that I would assume probably a lot of people have maybe heard of recently. It seems to be picking up a lot of traction in social media. But this is the story of Giulia Tofana. So this story comes from 17th century Italy. And this was very similar to your last story. This is a time when the unlimited power afforded to men meant that women often suffered a lot of abuse. Women were seen as property of their fathers, brothers, and husbands, essentially the men in their life. They had no rights for things like divorce. They didn't have a say in who they married. And really, they didn't have a lot of hope of escaping if they were in a bad situation, which was common. So, but even if their spouse didn't physically harm them, the accepted idea that women were property meant that wives really didn't get much say in the shape that their lives took. So, maybe their husband wasn't necessarily abusive in the traditional sense, but it didn't matter if you wanted kids or not, you were having kids. It didn't matter if you wanted to live in this town or not, you were living there. It didn't matter what you wanted for your life. That's what you were doing. And so female agency in general was just very suppressed and in many cases non-existent. So they definitely could not rely on the law for help, especially in those abusive scenarios. There just really wasn't anyone who could stand up for them. So women looked to other women for support, as we can see in many stories throughout history. There was really 3 options that a woman could take. She could either marry and hope that her husband treated them well. They could remain single if they can and rely on sex work to survive. That was really the only opportunity for work for women. Or they could become a widow. For many women, especially those in the wealthier classes, the idea of widowhood was the preferable option, an escape from, control. So in the shadowy back streets of Rome, a circle of poisoners operated from an apothecary, a place where women brought their heartbreaks and troubles. They procured herbs for childbirth, and they exchanged tarot readings to tell their fortunes. Just a cute, fun little time in this apothecary. This circle of outcast women became the dark heart of a notorious trial in 1659, which saw 5 women executed in Campo de Fiore for murder and witchcraft. The trial scandalized all of Rome, including Pope Alessandro VII, who was particularly determined to hunt down witches and heretics.
Oh.
So, yeah. Be careful who you do tarot around. No. Anyways, so Giulia Tofana, she was born in Palermo in 1620. Her mother, Tofania D'Amato, was executed for murdering her husband in 1633. Accounts discovered in the city's archives and state library tell of a very brutal and bloody death, which involved parading her mother, who had been tortured, through the streets, leading to her public execution. What is interesting is that she was accused of poisoning her husband, which was Giulia's stepfather. It was said that her mother essentially was the one who passed down this knowledge of poison. So Giulia would eventually leave her home in Sicily and travel to Naples, and then eventually all the way to Rome, where she would expand her black market trade and sell toxins to help women escape their loveless, suffocating relationships from an unassuming apothecary shop, as mentioned before, in Rome's Via di Corte Sevea, now known as Via Monserrato. Giulia and her circle of women offered an extensive line of beauty products. That was kind of their front. But they also provided a safe space for women to just be who they are. To those not in the know, her business was cosmetics, like I said, selling powders and liquids to enhance women's beauty. And that front made it much easier to disguise her best-selling product, Aqua Tofana, which you might have heard of. Aqua Tofana was a coveted face cream or oil that was used by Italian ladies to preserve their youth or procure widowhood, essentially. It was made from arsenic, belladonna, and lead, and it blended seamlessly into the cosmetics of the time. To the untrained eye, it was just another product designed to preserve youth and beauty, but in reality, it was poison. It was very slow acting and nearly undetectable at the time. Essentially, the effects at first, if a few drops of Aqua Tofana was mixed into a drink or a soup or some kind of liquid, it would cause exhaustion and physical weakness. And then the second dose would bring stomach cramps and vomiting. By the third dose, it would claim its victim, making it look like the person had succumbed to a common illness, often leaving no trace of foul play.
Smart.
Yeah, they didn't have, the forensic science they do now. So, oh no, he died of a cold. What are you going to do? The genius of Aqua Tofana was that it was deadly, but it didn't cause immediate suspicion because you could trace, a storyline of a victim that was slowly losing their strength over time. And all the while, their wives could quietly shape the circumstances of their death and kind of get their affairs in order before they ultimately met their demise. And also, Aqua Tofana, if you've seen pictures of it or drawings of it, rather, it looked like a glass bottle, kind of like a perfume bottle.
Yeah.
And it had St. Nicholas on the front of it. And it was called, I think, Manna de St. Nicholas. It was meant to be it was meant to give off the illusion that it was a health and beauty regimen.
Right.
So if, a husband saw that on a vanity set, it would just blend right in with all the rest of the cosmetics. So as her business grew, so did the dangers because these were happening quite frequently. So the Inquisition, essentially going back to that Pope that really did not like the witchcraft that was happening, the witchcraft, air quotes. The Inquisition, ever watchful for witches and heretics, began to close in on her network, but they continued, they being Giulia and her pals, continued to risk everything to help free the women of Rome from their abusers. It wasn't until one of Giulia's clients, who was a duchess, came very close to using Aqua Tofana. She had procured Aqua Tofana. She had full plans on using it to poison her own husband, who was a duke. But after administering that first dose, she hesitated and she ultimately confessed to her husband. She had she put a couple of drops in a bowl of soup, and when the Duke brought the spoon up to his mouth, she stopped him and freaked out. And he was a bit surprised, and so she had to then a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if they quite got past that. I don't know. They don't tell.
I don't think they worked out after that.
I don't think they went to counseling. I don't know. Anyways, but she convinced her husband, and then her husband went to the authorities and revealed the entire operation.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, because Giulia was so beloved by the people of Rome, especially the women that she had helped, she did get word of her warrant before the authorities came to her directly. And she was actually granted sanctuary by a local church to hide out. But unfortunately, rumors grew, and there soon became it became a whole conspiracy about how Giulia was poisoning the city's water supply, which she was not.
They poisoned the water
No,
supply.
poisoned the water. So she did eventually get captured, and she was turned in. Similar to her mother, she was tortured and she was forced to confess.
Oh.
And she allegedly admitted to poisoning over 600 men between 1633 and 1651. That is not a long time to kill that many people.
Yeah.
Which I do want to point out, she was not killing anyone. She was selling the product that was used to kill people. No different from selling someone a gun, if you want to look at it that way. It is different. I understand. Anyways, we don't need to get into all that.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Like, if you use a gun to kill someone, why wouldn't the person who sold you the gun?
It was a conspiracy, for sure. She was the ringleader. And again, women were not given any form of autonomy. So she was kind of seen as literally the poison to society, encouraging women to come up with their own crazy ideas, So I think they genuinely believed if they got rid of her, then the women would just go back to being quiet, happy little livestock. So anyways, the true number though, she said 600. The true number, there's no way of really knowing. So it could be more, could be less, who knows. But in 1659, Giulia Tofana was executed alongside her daughter and several of her associates.
Oh.
Her story, however, did not end there. There was a bit of lore after this. Her legacy would transcend the boundaries of Italy, and her name would live on in very dark folklore, influencing even the 17th century French affair of the poisons. And according to legend, even the famed composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was a victim of aqua tofana.
Mozart.
I know. On his deathbed, he reportedly exclaimed, "I am sure that I have been poisoned. I cannot rid myself of this idea. Someone has given me aqua tofana and calculated the precise time of my death." And then he died. So, I mean, if that's true, who did you piss off, Mozart?
Yeah. I don't want to know. Don't
Just
ruin
saying.
Mozart for me.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
We're not. You can't cancel Mozart. It's too late. Sorry.
It's way too late.
I'm like,
no. At the end of the day, Giulia Tofana's story is one of survival and of women finding a way to regain some power in a world that tried to strip it from them. Her name is synonymous with poison, but also with a woman who saw the injustice of her time and did what she could to help others escape it. Yeah.
Love it.
So some people see her as a martyr, some people see her as a villain.
Kind of like isn't that a vigilante?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She was Batman. There are better examples of vigilantes, but that was the one that came to mind.
Right.
Ultimately, though, I mean, just in researching these two stories, there are so many examples of stories like this that get brushed under the rug. And I mean, even in, more popular stories that we learn about in history, what they don't mention is the part that women play in those stories. Our history that we learn in the textbooks are very male dominated, I would say.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hope that you guys learned something and maybe even found a little bit of inspiration from these stories. Hopefully, if you did take inspiration from these stories, it was not to go and start a poisoning ring or
don't do that.
rally
There's more
rally
productive
troops
things
for
we
an
can
army.
do.
Yeah, there's more productive things. These are modern times. Those
Yeah.
will surely land you in a bad place. So don't do that.
Just get a
But
divorce.
just get a divorce while we still can.
Yeah, well, there's still no fault divorces.
Yeah. Anyways, if anything, I found these stories very inspirational to hear about how even in worse times than we are in now, because these were worse times than we're in now.
Yes, much. Yeah.
Yeah, women have always found a way
Yes.
to prevail and show strength and
Women are
empower
very
each
strong.
other. Women are very strong. We will make it through anything.
Yes.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow, subscribe, like, rate. You can follow us on Instagram at livelaughflore_pod. Look at us. If you're not watching us on YouTube, watch us on YouTube. If you're just listening
Yay.
to us, we are fairly attractive women. If you
Oh,
know,
God.
we're not bad to look at.
You're putting a lot
Sometimes
on
you
us
see
right now.
cats.
Sometimes you see cats. Yes, that's actually a huge focal point.
Yeah. You can watch us on YouTube if you haven't yet. And you can follow us on TikTok at Live Laugh Lore Podcast. We'd love to see ya there.
We love to see you.
We
Also,
love
please send us messages, emails, comments, all of the above. If you have any story ideas,
Yeah, if there's anything
we
you want
would
to
love to hear
hear.
from you. Even if it's not about anything spooky or lore related, you know. If you've been to
Yeah.
Australia, we'd love to hear it.
We would love to hear it.
We'd love to hear it.
If I pronounce something wrong, let us know.
Actually, do let us know. No, I will not be
Yeah.
upset if you correct my pronunciation because we need help with that.
Yeah.
If you've ever been traveling and you've been personally attacked by the sound of an American's voice, let us know.
Let us know.
Anyways, with that, we love you.
Good day.
Thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Good day. Goodbye.
Good night and goodbye.
Oh.
Ding. This has been a walk in the park. I feel like we have fallen apart. So I can do the whole thing.
You know that I'm going to put all of this in, right?
Don't.